Welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of Late Night Tinkering. The viewers and the listeners won't necessarily know this until they tune in Friday, Saturday, whenever they do. But our good buddy Charlie over here is making us record a little bit early. I heard he's going to be down in Miami. What are you getting up to this weekend, C?
Getting flown down for a business trip. I'm sorry, boys, that the pod had to take a backseat this week, but I'm glad we could do it on Tuesday. We had a good day of Champions League today. Great weekend of Prem, so we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do. I mean, only one good day of Champions League, unfortunately. We still got another one Wednesday, another one Thursday. Hopefully might be sending out some posts, update and, provide some potential further insights on anything we talk about today, but looking forward to getting into it.
Let's go, fellas. I'm ready. I'm excited for this episode, finally. It was a good day at Champions League, so I'm ready to get into it. Who wants to start? You know what? I'm not even gonna let you guys start. I'm gonna start because I finally got a fucking green, and I'm incredibly excited for that green. Basically, Spurs just heroes all around the board. 28 points from Son, Solanke, and BJ. They pretty much made my week. They made it a little bit easier to see Aina on my bench, as well as Morgan Rogers. At some point when Flecken was on 12, I had Flecken on 12, Aina with 15, Rogers with 9 on my bench. And I was like, wow, that's actually just kind of unfortunate. But hey, look, we'll take the green. It was a pretty big green. I'm back inside the top 3 mil. The comeback starts today. We got a couple returns other than Mbuemo. Finally. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to catch up to Coupe. I'm not even going to mention catching up to Charlie because that's just inevitable. But
I guess I can go next. As someone who actually had Aina not on my bench, he was in my starting 11.
You lucky piece of shit.
The pride of, I think he's from Nigeria. I may be wrong, but apologies if he's not from Nigeria. But the pride of Nottingham Forest will go with Ola Aina, absolute banger top corner, 15-pointer from him. We also had Solanke. I think we all had Solanke. It was actually nice rooting for one of our boys together.
I didn't like
Solanke. You didn't like it?
No, I wanted him. I wanted him to be just for me. I need to catch up to you guys. It was kind of annoying knowing that both of you had him, but hey, we'll take it.
All right, we'll take it. Anyway, Solanke, big 16. I was the only one out of us three who had Mr. Mohamed Salah, king of FPL. 18 points from him as my captain. And they were actually my only 3 guys who returned. Everyone else either got 2 or 1. Bumo had a big clean sheet bonus, though, for 3 points. But a huge green. Started the week, 2.9 million, ended up 1.6 million. Game week rank of just under 200,000, all from 3 players. So thank you to Aina, Solanke, and Mohamed Salah. We slept good over the weekend. Coupe, I know you had a little bit of a tougher week.
Yeah, a bit of a weekend to forget. Down about 20K in rank, currently sitting around 275K. Still scored a little above average with 45 points on the match week. We knew that we didn't have good defensive fixtures going into that match week, and that's exactly what the results told us as well. Pedro Porro, 1-pointer with his yellow. Gabriel kind of a frustrating 2. Arsenal did defend really well that game. It was just one chance early on. Gordon pinged in a really good ball to Isak, who really couldn't miss from where he was. Alexander-Arnold also looked pretty good, was nearly on bonus. Pinged a couple really good balls in that could have been finished. I think Joe Gomez completely whiffed one of them, but no returns from him again, which is a little bit frustrating given that, he's the most expensive defender in the game. And our move bringing in Palmer and Solanke for Salah and who was it at this point? Jamie Vardy. At the end of the day, I have to be happy because going into Sunday, I had 1 return. And going into the last game of Saturday, I had 0 returns until Matthijs Cunha gave me an assist late in that second half. But Cole Palmer, it's an unfortunate blank. Somehow he ended up on bonus. Honestly, not totally sure if he deserved it, but that was pretty huge for me as he was my captain. But unfortunate a little bit to have let go of Mo and to see Palmer blank. in the way that he did. But have to be thankful for Solanke. Showed up huge for me. Without that, I think I probably would have finished somewhere in, maybe the bottom 15 mil. It would have been ugly if Solanke had done nothing for me. And my bench was quiet as well. So, even though we're still staying big at the back, thankfully nothing sneaky out of Digne or Keane this weekend.
Yo, did Coupe just say if it wasn't for Solanke, he would have finished in the bottom 15 mil? I'm assuming you mean game week rank?
Yes, game week rank.
Yeah. Well, there aren't even 15 million players in the game.
I thought there were 30 mil. You were telling me that.
30? Bro, like 13, maybe.
Dude, you could see it. I think it's just 10, straight up.
10?
10.5?
Okay, well,
10.7. 10.7. So
10.7? Well, it probably would have been close to 10 then.
Hey, I was there before.
10.6.
I've been there before. I was 10.3 for one of those game weeks at some point, which is
anyway. Let's talk about a couple of matches we watched, and then we're going to go into a couple of teams that we're targeting over the next couple of weeks. Let's start with Forest, hey? Third in the table, great start to the season. I mean, Chris Wood's been on fire. Their defense has been on fire. Ola Aina has been on fire. That man from Nigeria, and they do have some tough fixtures coming up. I will say that is the only thing. So Nottingham Forest, let's talk about their assets in general. Obviously, Chris Wood, 6.4 mil. I think he might be the second highest scoring forward behind Haaland. Would you buy him now? Do you think he's definitely not a sell if he's in your team, but would you go out of your way to buy him, if you didn't have him in your team already?
So, first of all, I just want to start off by saying that you're a piece of shit for having Aina in your 11 there, and he would not shut up about it all weekend. The moment that goal went in, it was like everything in our little late night tinkering chat was just about Ola Aina and how I had him on my bench and how he had him in his 11. So I hate you. But second of all,
they're playing West Ham at home. I mean, how do you have him on your bench?
I mean,
that's not my fault.
No, we talked about it last episode. I have you recorded on Spotify right now saying that you would play double Arsenal over double Nottingham. So don't give me that bullshit, okay?
Yeah, well, I have double Arsenal. So
okay, well, you said for me or for people listening, if people do listen that have double Arsenal, that you would go with them over double Nottingham with Sells and Aina. Whatever, dude. Congratulations, you got a little bit lucky. I think
also he is from Nigeria. I just checked.
That's good.
I'm really happy you're right about that one.
Yeah. All right.
Is he lefty, or was that on his weak foot?
I don't really know, and I don't really care. It was top.
I'm sorry. There's no way that could have been his weak foot. That was an absolute screamer.
He's ambidextrous, bro.
That was a scream. Okay. Back on track though. Nottingham Forest. I think they're good. They're obviously very good, right? And Nuno has them set up to play. Like the way they play is frustrating for teams, and everything's kind of clicking with them right now. I think they've conceded 7 in the Prem this season, which is only behind Liverpool. I think Liverpool have conceded 6, and they've conceded 7. So they might not have the second most clean sheets, but they have, in theory, the second best defense in the Premier League right now, which very good. I think they're overperforming, both in terms of the amount of goals that they're scoring and the amount of goals that they're conceding. I think they're overperforming just a little bit. With regards to Wood specifically, I think I saw something. Let me just look to make sure exactly, but something like his XG was per 90 was 0.45 or so, something along those lines, and he's actually averaging 0.85 goals per 90. That's gonna come down. Okay, like he's not all of a sudden turned himself into Harry Kane. He is going to come down at some point, but who knows exactly when that's going to be. And to be honest with you, the fixtures may seem bad on paper. So you have Newcastle home, Arsenal away, Ipswich home, City away, United away, Villa home, Brentford away. Those are not great fixtures. Obviously, you have a lot of big teams there, but it's not like Arsenal's defense has been incredible, right? And it's not like Man City's defense has been incredible. They just lost their third game in a row today. They just conceded 4 to Sporting. I mean, I know 2 of those were penalties, but they are a little fragile right now. They definitely have less defensive solidity than in the past. So you can make a case that it's not so bad to go and get Chris Wood right now. I personally wouldn't. I think the train has left for Chris Wood. If you don't have Chris Wood, wait. You know, there are other cheap forwards that have better fixtures that could be more of a differential. So that's
DCL.
my opinion on Wood. What?
DCL, great fixtures.
Yeah, go get DCL. Go get DCL.
DCL's great fixtures. He's probably not going to play, but he's got great fixtures.
Yeah, but I think you could go with Strand Larson, Cunha, like they have good fixtures. Raul has decent fixtures. So there's a lot of places that you could go other than Wood.
Welbeck.
But, yeah, Welbeck, exactly. João Pedro.
The forgotten man of the FPL season, Danny Welbeck.
Exactly. João Pedro when he's back. So there's a lot of different routes that you can go, but I also would not say it would be terrible if you just want to get in Chris Wood, set and forget, and see if he's going to continue doing the things he's been doing. That is perfectly fine as well. It's just not a move that I would make. I would want to go with slightly more differential, attack slightly better fixtures than go with Chris Wood right now, but would not argue with anyone that wants to go with Chris Wood.
Did you mean to do that? Would not. That's clever.
Yeah, but I appreciate
you've been cooking that one up all day, or?
I've been thinking about it in the build-up to this episode.
Yeah, I like that. Coupe.
Yeah, but before I get into Chris Wood and Nottingham Forest, I'll say from watching that Man City game today, they gave up 4. They could have given up 6. Gyökeres had 2 other chances that he easily could have tucked away. I think it was 2 one-on-ones essentially with the keeper. So Man City looking like they're a little bit in shambles right now, but
they to be fair, they did start pussy at the back.
They did.
The 19-year-old? No, the
Wait,
19-year-old.
wait, what'd you say? His name was
That's only the second part of his hyphenated last name.
Pussy.
It's something Pussy.
I think it's Poussey.
And he did play like a pussy. He got absolutely exposed. But getting back to Nottingham Forest, I'll touch on Chris Wood as well. Looking back at his season thus far, in 10 match weeks this year, he's only blanked twice. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. The guy's scorching hot. For me personally, if I have him in my team, which unfortunately I don't, I have not benefited from that. I am another victim of choosing DCL over him back in my wildcard team. If I have Wood, it's an easy hold. If I don't have Wood, I have to agree with you, Hassan. Unfortunately, I think the train has left the station on Chris Wood.
Yeah.
If he scores again next week, I wouldn't be shocked. But at a certain point, there has to come a little bit of regression. And so, as someone without him in my team, I'm going to hope and pray that he blanks for the next 2 weeks, and then I might be willing to consider a 1-week punt with Ipswich away. And I also might be willing to keep him through that time to play Villa at home as well as Brentford away. Neither of those fixtures, as someone who would have Chris Wood in my team, are fixtures that make me even think twice about wanting to play him. Villa haven't been great as a defense so far this year. And, I mean, Brentford, we really thought, they really fooled us into thinking that they were going to keep their first clean sheet of the year. But that was not the case. When it comes to the other...
Heartbreak for Flecken owners, I'll tell you that. He had 12 points on the 92nd minute. Then when they scored, he went down to 8 points. The clean sheet was taken away. And then when they scored in the 96th minute, he went down to 4 points because his 3 bonus was eradicated. And obviously the -1 you get for conceding 2 goals. So an absolute calamity for Flecken owners. We were all pretty happy. I'm sure, Hassan, you were delighted with those late 2 goals, considering he was on your bench. But yeah, I mean, Brentford for an attack is not a scary fixture. They've probably been one of the worst defensive teams in the league, to be honest.
Yeah, and let me just touch on the defenders and the other players real quick. I guess the one other guy who is somewhat relevant in terms of attacking returns on that team is maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi. I probably keep him in my team if I have him. I don't go out and get him. He did return this past week, but doesn't really belong in the same conversation as Chris Wood. But when it comes to their defense, guys like Ina, guys like Milinkovic, those are guys that I keep all of them around. Forrest has been super impressive defensively this year. They really haven't been tested in terms of their quality of opponent. I mentioned this when I was talking to you guys, but I really can't take too much away from the clean sheet this week, given the sending off, which was right around about halftime of that game. So they essentially played a West Ham team, which is already a struggling team, but they played that West Ham team with 10 men. But they have faced Liverpool this year, who they pulled off that very impressive 1-0 win against. And then they played Chelsea as well, who they only conceded 1-2. So when it comes to their defenders, they're guys that I consider starting on a weekly basis and guys that I definitely keep in my team.
I mean, they're all budget guys as well, right? They're all 5.4 points. I mean, Aina might be 4.7 now, I think, but they're all 4.7 and under. So you obviously get great value with them. And I mean, they're just great assets. I mean, I said the other day, Aina's a season keeper for me. He ain't going anywhere for my team, especially after he just put up that magic 15-pointer. I'm not sure if you guys heard about that. But
no, we didn't.
Let's talk about another team. Different situation. New manager incoming, not quite yet. Man United. You boys are obviously both fans of Man U. What did you see from the weekend?
Me?
I thought you were a Man U fan.
Have you seen our logo for the show?
You're a Liverpool fan?
Yeah. I do like Man U, though. I do like their players. I will say that.
You cannot say that as a Liverpool fan, man.
Well, we've got Hassan. We've got Hassan as Man U fan. Hassan, what did you see from the game? And obviously, Man U have great fixtures coming up, especially over the next 3 weeks. Would you be looking to bring a Man U player as a punt? And who would it be?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really interesting right now. I think with the way Ruud van Nistelrooy is set up, and he has one more game in charge before Amorim comes in for the Ipswich away game, which is right after the international break.
I think they have Europa League this week.
Yes, they have Europa League on Thursday, so we'll get a little bit more. I mean, honestly, there's no too much information that could happen from this Europa League game. We kind of have seen the way Ruud plays. It's basically the same as Ten Hag, maybe a little bit less direct, a little bit more aggressive, maybe because he doesn't have as much pressure. But I would say these 3 games are very good for in terms of fixtures, right? You have Leicester at home, Ipswich away, Everton at home. Those are 3 very good fixtures. So in terms of a 3-week punt, I don't think it's a bad idea to punt Man United players right now. I would say, I think it's fairly obvious. I think the top 3, or at least let's go like forwards, midfielders, defenders. The defenders, Dalot. I would just go with Dalot. I don't think there would be any other defender. Maybe Mazraoui, but I think Dalot's more likely to get an offensive return than Mazraoui. Like, we've seen Dalot make those runs. Like, he had that open goal against who was it? That they did? West Ham. Against West Ham, he had that open goal. He made that crazy run. So he does get forward, and he does get goal-scoring opportunities sometimes. So I think his expected goal involvements per 90 is like 0.16, which for a defender is not so bad. So the defender would be Dalot. The midfielders are obviously Bruno and Garnacho. I think I would go with Bruno over Garnacho just because I think he's going to play 90. And just like against Chelsea, he's on penalties. And that's a real thing. Sometimes teams go a few games in a row where they get penalties and suddenly those returns come. And Bruno's a bonus point magnet. If he gets a return, he will likely get bonus points. Now, I didn't check what happened against Chelsea, so I don't actually know if he got bonus points against Chelsea. So I might have just made myself look really stupid.
No, he did.
I would assume he got bonus points. So it would be Bruno and Garnacho. I would favor Bruno, though Garnacho's XG, I believe, is higher. Just straight up pure XG. I think XGI, Bruno's higher. And Bruno should have hauled so many times this season. Like, I have no idea how he left that Chelsea game with 1 return. But he did, somehow. I would steer clear of
by far the most underperforming asset this year, I would say.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like his finishing just quite isn't there. He's had some chances he should have put away. He's created a bunch of chances for Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund, Xerxes, whomever, and they haven't put it away. So he definitely could have more points. And then I think as the forward, I don't think Højlund's a terrible punt. And I say that because the midfield spots are kind of scarce right now. Like there's a lot of good midfielders that you want to fit in. If you have your 3 premiums, it's kind of hard to downgrade one of your premiums to Bruno. You know what I mean? Like you don't really want to do that because the premiums midfielders are so good. So the forward slot though is where you can get a little bit creative. And I think Højlund is a great punt. I think he's guaranteed to start. I don't think Xerxes taking his starting spot anytime soon, even with Amorim coming in. And so I believe you're guaranteed those 3 fixtures for Højlund and Bruno. Garnacho, I really don't know if he's guaranteed to start under Amorim. And so you could have just one game, which would be this Leicester at home game, which obviously isn't bad. But if you're punting, you're probably not 1 week punting unless you're looking to wildcard in 12, which I think is somewhat popular, right? Like I think people that haven't wildcarded so far are going to be wildcarding in 12.
Yeah, there's a huge fixture swing straight after an international break like that. If you haven't wildcarded yet, then you're probably wildcarding this.
Exactly. So you could go with the Garnacho one week punt. I think Bruno's a better option. Man United as a whole right now, kind of tricky. Wouldn't blame people to go for it, but I wouldn't blame people if they go for it. But I also wouldn't blame people if they didn't. It's something I am considering. Just very briefly, I'm considering doing that, and I'll get to it later when we talk about what potential moves we might be making. But I think it is a good time. Yeah, the fixtures are really, really good.
I agree. I mean, if I could, I would try and get Bruno in. It's a tricky price point though, 8.5, because there's no really other midfielders around him. So
is he 8.5? I think he dropped.
Yeah, I think 8.2, but like around there, you know what I mean? You're either having to try and upgrade a 5.5 to him, or you're having to downgrade one of your premiums, as you said, to him. So it's kind of a tricky little price point to get to. Maybe, I mean, you could try and get from Bumo to him. I'm not sure that's the best idea, though. So, yeah, Bruno, definitely the top option out of there. I don't mind the Højlund punt. I haven't really watched enough United to say, you know, I really like Højlund as a player, but and then Dalot at the back, good option. Mazraoui's pretty attacking though. I mean, he played 10 that one Europa League game.
Yeah, that's not happening again though.
I know it's not happening again, but it shows you the quality he has on the ball and in between spaces. Yeah, I think there's definitely look, if you're looking to try and get back in some mini leagues, get back in, you know, get your overall rank up, this is a great time to try and go for one of those differentials from United.
Right, I agree.
I just want to say before I get into any of the attacking players that I was talking about Diogo Dalot probably 5 or 6 weeks ago now, and I was being heavily shit on by some of you.
And how's he done?
As highly as I was. Sorry?
How's he done?
He's done just fine. The Man U defense has honestly been pretty solid.
Weirdly enough, they have kept some clean sheets, right? But I don't think he's done that great.
No, it's not. It's not like he's been hauling or he's been the best defender or anything. But
he has one return in his last 5. I mean, he's gone 0-6, 1-1-1. That's not very good.
One return in his last 5. But if he had put the ball away in an empty net that probably any 3 of us could have scored, it would have been 2 and 5, and it would be a very different conversation.
Hey, don't say that. I don't think you would have scored that.
I think I would have scored that. I played soccer for a while. I'm not sure if you knew that.
I
was good. I was good. I made the state A team. Called the coach, said, "Sorry, I'm taking my talents to a different sport," and that was swimming at the time. Actually, it wasn't tennis, but that's for another day. When it comes to the other assets in that team, that's a good point that you bring up, Charlie, about the price point of Bruno being tricky. It really is when it comes to he's kind of a guy that if you bring him in, you're likely going to have to make another move along with it. And for me, I had him early on in the season. Honestly, became very frustrated watching these games where, as we're all saying, he should have hauled, he should have had returns, he should have been on bonus, and he simply wasn't. And so even with these upcoming good fixtures, it's hard for me to be tempted to return back to him, especially in my position as somebody who has Foden and still has a couple really good fixtures with Man City, and I'm hoping to get something good from that. But if there's one guy in that team who I'm really high on, it has to be Rasmus Højlund. I think he'll end up playing 90. I just mentioned the guy speaking about the Man City result with Sporting earlier today. But Amorim has turned Gyökeres into an absolute beast this season. The guy has 23 goals in 16 games this year.
They're fairly similar to Højlund and Gyökeres. Like, obviously not entirely like for like. I think Gyökeres maybe is a little technically slightly better, but I mean, same type of style of forward, like better in transition, not necessarily like a drop deep and hold up the ball, very much playing on the shoulder of the defender, bully ball, kind of like old school number 9 stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for all those reasons you just mentioned, he's a guy that I'm considering bringing in as a potential punt. Where exactly I'd be downgrading in my team remains to be seen. But I think where's Højlund's price currently sitting around? It's around. Is it around 6.9, 7, 7.1? It's somewhere in there, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's 6.9.
I think it's 7, right?
It's no higher than 7.1, right?
6.9.
It's 6.9. 6.9.
It's 6.9. So this honestly might be a decent segue into our conversation about defenders and whether you should
say one thing though, Coupe, before we go into that.
Yeah.
Here's a pretty worrying stat for Højlund. I agree with you that Højlund's a good punt. And obviously he has not played too many games in the Premier League this season because of his injury and whatnot. Like, let's see, he has so far 340 minutes. He has 340 minutes. But Man United's front line's shot distribution, Garnacho in the Premier League, Garnacho with 28, Rashford with 10, Højlund with 4. He's had 4 shots in the Premier League. That is pretty damning. That is like not very enticing in and of itself. Now, I watch, so I see what's going on. I still think he's a good punt, but that is something to bring up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so, if you're making that move, you're definitely banking a bit on the fact that Amorim is going to have some sort of influence on him. But even with that said, I think I brought this up when I mentioned Højlund as my differential, which was a miss for me the other week. But when I brought Højlund up as my differential, I think what I was saying was that he had the same amount of goals from open play as Bruno Fernandes last year, which was tied to lead the team. So even with Ten Hag, he had done pretty well in terms of his production, and we know that his production had come later towards the end of last year as opposed to earlier in the season. So maybe he's getting off to another slow start. Who knows? But I think that better days are to come for Rasmus Højlund, and I think that betting on some returns with this upcoming swing of fixtures for Man U could potentially pay off.
Agreed.
That's enough Man U talk. That's way too much Man U talk.
It was a good game between Chelsea and United. I enjoyed watching it a lot. I thought Chelsea were very good, by the way.
Good game. It was a good game.
Yeah.
Charlie doesn't really support his club anymore. He's just more concerned. He's more concerned with, to be fair, I wanted to throw my phone out of the window when Mo Salah scored that goal. I did. I would have been so happy if it had been anybody else.
You guys are
Nunez maybe, but that one was just sickening. It's the second week in a row I haven't had Salah as my captain, and he's returned in the last 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, he keeps doing it.
It's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Let's
move
talk
about how we can get to these guys. Yeah, and a route could be downgrading the big at the back defense. And I think we kind of briefly touched on this last episode, but we really kind of talked about what our teams were doing. What do you guys think about big at the back in general? Like, not specifically for your team, but just moving forward for all teams, like those that have it, those that don't have it. Should they go get it? Should they sell it if they already have it? Should you have some sort of balance between 4-5s and like the premiums, or should you just go no premium defenders, put all that money into your midfield and forwards, and get just a bunch of 4-5s that you rotate?
I'll start. I think 1 premium and 4 rotational defenders is the way to go. So whether that's you want to go Trent and 4 rotationals, if you want to go one of your Arsenal boys and 4 rotationals, maybe you prefer Gvardiol and your 4 rotationals. I just think there's so much value that we've seen so far this season in some of these 4-5s. There's more parity now in the Premier League than there ever has been, realistically, right? So, I mean, we've seen it this season. Forest go to Liverpool, keep a clean sheet. So you can never really tell on any given week what is going to happen. So why would you not go for some of these defenders who start 90 for every they play 90 every game, right? Or they play 8, they start every game. They can keep the old clean sheet away against a big club. They're attacking. You're looking at guys like Nori. Obviously, their defense has been shocking, but I'm watching that Wolves game at the weekend. Sometimes in the number 9 position, it's ridiculous. He is on the back of one of the central defenders making a run. It's insane. And the guy is a 4.7 defender now. Guys like Kadioglu for Brighton hasn't really been heard of much to start the season. Gets a goal. Leif Davis has been super attacking all season. I know Ipswich are unlikely to keep many clean sheets, but great finish over the weekend. And then you can even target some of these 4.5 guys from the bigger clubs, right? We've talked about Mazraoui, 4.7 probably now with his price rises. Rico Lewis is getting up to that kind of 5 mil spot. And I'm not super high on him right now. I think I'm looking to move away from him personally. But even Chelsea, Colwill, if you want to take a punt on Reece James, if you're absolutely psycho. But there's a lot of good options. Let's just say that. Even like Newcastle, like Lewis Hall at 4.3, gets an assist and a clean sheet over the weekend. Or just gets a clean sheet, but he locked down Bukayo Saka for the whole game. So I think the 4.5s route is the way to go for the rest of the season, personally.
I disagree. I disagree. I'm a big at the back guy. I think all the 4.5s, like, yeah, they're fine, and you just have to get a little bit lucky because you have to get the right rotation and you have to make sure you pick the right guy. And whereas with these big at the back guys, yes, it hasn't worked out and it's been terrible, right? It's been basically catastrophic for the last 6 weeks. I don't know how many returns Trent has in the last 6 weeks, but not a lot. And we know Saliba and Gabriel have not, and Raya as well, have not been returning at all. But, dude, you have to think that that's going to change. Like, there's a reason those guys are those guys. There's a reason Arsenal and Liverpool are known as the best defense. And they're going to start getting these clean sheets. And Trent will start getting attacking returns as well. He should have more than, I believe he has, one attacking return this whole season or 2 attacking returns this whole season?
One assist.
Yeah, he should have more. And that's going to come. And that's going to be a difference, in my opinion. But I also see where you're coming from. Like, I saw some screenshots of Ait Nouri. Like, I saw this tweet. It was like, here's 4 screenshots why I'm worried about not owning it.
Insane. Fucking insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And a lot of managers are doing this now. Malo Gusto literally plays in the 10 position for Chelsea. In that first half against Man United, before they changed the system, and like they've played him like this in multiple games, he was quite actually playing the 10 position. And it's crazy. It's nuts. And Kadioglu, as you said, I thought he was a midfielder from how high up he was playing. I think he was actually playing midfield this past game. But if that's a defender that could play midfield and will play midfield sometimes for Brighton, yeah, that's just good. But I think it's eventually going to backfire.
I'll mention another couple guys from that bracket. Anthony Robinson, Fulham. I have him on my bench this weekend, luckily, but super attacking. Fulham are, they're a top 10 team this year. I think they'll finish around 9th, 10th, 11th, something like that. And Tsimikas from Liverpool potentially taking the spot of Andy Robertson, something that needs to be considered if you're looking to downgrade maybe a Trent and go straight back into the Liverpool team with Tsimikas. Definitely a risk with minutes, but Coupe, thoughts on the whole big of the back situation?
Yeah, well, of course, as you all know from hearing me every single week, I'm about as big at the back as you can be. I have Trent, I have Gabriel, I have Porro as well, who I guess I could have a slightly more expensive guy. I could have Vard, which would be nice, but I don't. But I have Porro, who's a 5.5. And as we know, it hasn't worked out for me so far. But as somebody who was new to Fantasy Prem this year and was looking at the scoring and how defenders gained points over the course of the year, I really felt like big at the back was a solid strategy because Of course it's nice, and I completely get why you have the argument that you have, Charlie, because you have a guy like Ola Aina who you happen to bring in, who you happen to hit on when you started him. So it's easy. It's easy to make that argument when it goes right. But at the end of the day, although the clean sheets have been a little bit random, we're only 10 weeks into the season, and as random as sometimes the clean sheets might be, the goals are going to be even more random when it comes to these players. And so when it comes to staying big at the back, it hasn't paid off for me so far with the players that I have in my team. But I'm not ready to back away. I mean, Arsenal. Yeah. We knew that Arsenal didn't have the easiest run of fixtures coming up, and I wasn't going to take them out, even though Ryan Gabriel didn't get me any clean sheets during that easier run. But there's another easier run of fixtures again for them around the corner now. And you got to imagine that Liverpool as well are going to start baking up a couple clean sheets here and there. So when it comes to having a Liverpool and an Arsenal asset in your defense, I think it's absolutely essential. I will say that a guy who's been a little bit slept on, I know he's a little bit notorious for having some injury issues.
Yes.
Is Konate for Liverpool. He's had some returns. I think he's currently only sitting around like 5-2 or so. So I mean, if you've been rolling the dice with Konate this year as opposed to a Trent, I mean you've completely cashed out in that regard. And Konate is a guy who I'm going to be monitoring the news because he did have an injury to his arm, and I think he did tweet out after the game that everything's okay.
Played today.
He played today.
Yeah, he did.
I should know that as my team.
In a big win for Liverpool, 4-0 over Leverkusen, and he was good.
Yeah, but he's been great. We'll get into it with our teams for next week. I'm honestly considering downgrading Trent to him just to keep a Liverpool guy on my team. When it comes to having the other pieces on your bench, I think that having a good mix of the 4 or 5 guys, especially the guys who we're talking about, are not necessarily playing in those classic defensive positions. Kadioglu is a guy who I have my eye on after this difficult fixture away for Brighton. They have some really nice fixtures coming up after that. I mean, it's let me look at it again. I think it's about as good as it gets. They have after Man City away, they have Man City at home, sorry. But after Man City at home, Bournemouth away, Southampton at home, away at Fulham, and it's Leicester, Crystal Palace. It's a good run of fixtures for them, for sure. So when it comes to bringing in more 4 or 5 guys as well, I will say that that's probably something that I'll transition to doing. Porro really just hasn't cut it for me because he's a guy that's supposed to be returning attacking-wise in the way that some of these 4 or 5 guys that we're talking about are. But even though every single week, Tottenham's scoring a shit ton of goals, they're scoring 3 or 4. He never happens to be involved in any of them, and he's not even really that close, to be honest, either. Watching the games, so Porro's really not cutting it for me in terms of his premium price and the lack of offensive returns he's getting. And when you couple it with the fact that Tottenham never keeps clean sheets, he's a guy that you just can't have in your team.
You're a victim of Pedro Porro, Coupe. I just want to end this segment on this. I think FPL has gotten the prices so well this year. I think you can, truly, I believe, just like with the premium setups, you can go either way, and I don't think either is a wrong decision. I think big at the back will come good. I also wouldn't blame anyone for not going big at the back, going like Charlie said, a combination of 1 premium, 2 or 3 4-5s that you can rotate, and then maybe 1 4-0 just to save money. But I think what could be a really winning combination right now is I have Trent and 2 Arsenal defenders. If I downgrade one of my Arsenal defenders to Konate and have double Liverpool defense instead of Arsenal, and he's about $1 million cheaper, and I could then upgrade, a forward from 5-5 to 6-5 or something like that, I think that could be really interesting as well. So I think Konate really does shake up the game with how good Liverpool's defense has been so far. But yeah, I'm sticking with big at the back. I fucking love it. I think it's gonna break the trend and come back to being good. And that's basically what I'm betting my money on.
Just think the 3 to 4 mil you can save on the defenders when we've just seen a real parity with kind of how the distribution of points has been at the back. I just think that 4 mil you can spend elsewhere is huge. I mean, that's the difference between a 5 mil defender and someone like Bruno Fernandes or DCL and Ollie Walker. There's huge differences you can upgrade, So, but anyway, that's enough talk there. We'll see.
We'll see who's right.
I mean, as you said, there's no right or wrong because you can't judge it in a vacuum. Because then you got to look.
I mean, we'll see who's right in terms of points, like who gets a little luckier.
It wasn't luck. It's a bad. Anyway, let's talk about our teams of the week. I'll start. I have 2 free transfers, and the fixtures next week look pretty good overall. I'm thinking actually about playing 4-4-2 this week. I'm benching DCL. I'm done with him.
Dude, just sell him.
Why? There's no one to sell him right now for if I just do one. Like I can sell him to Larson, but I'm not a huge fan of Larson, and then I don't really want double Brentford to be honest. So
I can never convince myself of double.
Well, I'm going to have him on my bench, and I'm going to play 4-4-2 with a few 4.5 defenders in there for you boys. The only move that I'm thinking of maybe doing one move, and it's getting Rico Lewis out and putting 8 Nori in. I'm getting sucked into the 8 Nori hype. I saw the screenshots. I mean, I watched the game, and considering their fixtures, I just think it's a really good option. The only thing I'm worried about is that he is on 4 yellow. So if he picks up one more, he is suspended for a game.
Yeah, so are a few people like Semenyo.
I can't live in fear. So Southampton at home, I mean, he could explode. If they keep a clean sheet, that's the minimum for him. He could easily go get an assist or a goal. So I think that's the move I'll make. Rico Lewis, his minutes are issues. City don't look like they want to keep a clean sheet at the moment. So that's what I'm going to do.
Coupe? Any tinkering?
I'll go with my team for this week. My team, so I'm currently sitting at 3 transfers. So I've said in previous episodes that I wanted to roll into the international break with 4 transfers. But I'm starting to second guess that a little bit, and a lot of that has to do with the performance of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And we've had this conversation about, he's what was that one week? He had 1.75 expected goals, and he's had all these other great chances here and there. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that these guys are humans and that missing these chances really affects their confidence. Like, just because they have these expected goals doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to keep on coming, especially when they're coming as often and being missed as often as they are for a guy like DCL. So when it comes to DCL, I have the option to bench him and play 4 defenders at the back. I could still keep 3 defenders at the back, and I could bring in Smith Rowe to play away at Crystal Palace in the midfield and have 5 midfielders. I don't really like that option, to be honest. Sellers Park is a pretty difficult place for teams to come in and play at. I mean, even though Liverpool got a result there, I think they only kept Liverpool to 1 goal. They shut down the Tottenham offense the other week. So don't necessarily love putting Smith Rowe in at the midfield position. So for me this week, I'm either rolling straight through or I'm transferring DCL to Højlund and downgrading Trent to Konate. And that would be the one potential move that I could see myself making. Unfortunately, Digne is not playable this weekend away at Liverpool. Keane potentially maybe away at West Ham if he's starting, but it's just not convincing. I'm keeping Pedro Porro around. I've said I'm keeping him in until this fixture at home against Ipswich, and Gabriel and Raya always going to be in there. So that potentially 2 moves for me, but just as likely, honestly, probably 50-50 right now to just roll.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I was planning on rolling until game week 12 when the fixtures changed, and I'd have 4 transfers in game week 12, and then I'd do kind of mini wildcard type thing, getting Haaland out and just going for the 3 premium mid setup. But I think I'm done with DCL as well. And look, I know he's human, and I really don't want to just like shit on him and say that he's terrible, but it's been terrible owning him, like seeing him get these chances and not putting them away. I'm sure he's more frustrated himself than anyone else. And like at the end of the day, fantasy Premier League doesn't actually matter. Like I hope this guy finds his confidence and starts scoring because I legitimately think there's a player there. Like actually, I've seen him before. I've seen him score. He used to be very good, and he was linked to big clubs as well. So it's unfortunate to see him like this. I think the goals will come, but I don't think I can do it anymore. And I was planning on holding, even though he blanked, if he got like 80 minutes, but getting subbed off at 62 just killed it for me, especially with Rodgers having Liverpool away. If Rodgers had a good fixture, I would hold, play Rodgers, bench DCL, move on. Liverpool away is not a good enough fixture for me. I don't want to have to play Rodgers, Liverpool away, and Smith Rowe, Palace away. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go DCL to Strand Larson. I think that's going to be my move. That means if I want Saka in game week 12, I'm going to have to take a -4 because I also want Nicholas Jackson. I don't have to. It would actually be if I want Nicholas Jackson in game week 12, I'd have to take a -4. So it'd be either play Solanke away at Man City or get Nicholas Jackson for a -4. And I'll probably end up taking the hit just because I think it's worth it. But yeah, I think it's just going to be DCL to Strand Larson for me. Strand Larson has Southampton at home. Wolves, we've discussed, good fixtures, all this stuff. He scored last week, so in decent form. That's probably what I'm just going to do.
I like it, and that's my other option. But I don't really like Strand Larson.
I do want to get into one thing. We have one question, fellas. Another viewer question that I actually this question while recording our episode. Would you guys so this viewer is actually in our mini league, so I don't know how much we want to help him. But he's a little bit ahead of you, Charlie, a little bit behind Coupe. I'm going to keep him kind of anonymous just for fun.
I know.
It's not Manu Magic.
It's not Manu Magic.
It's not
I was going to say, if it's Manu Magic,
we're not helping him.
We're not helping him. Yeah.
No.
Let's go.
Also, I don't know why he's coming to us if I'm Manu Magic.
He's wondering. He's wondering, not for 1 week, not like a start-sit situation for next week alone, but just overall. If you had to own one of the cheap midfielders on your team, would it be Semenyo, Smith Rowe, or Rodgers? Semenyo has really good fixtures. He's around 5'6" as well. Smith Rowe, we know he can produce at 5'6" and all this stuff, but both of them not as cheap as Rodgers, and Smith Rowe not guaranteed 90 like the other two. So, what do you guys think?
Semenyo.
You would have Semenyo would be your choice? If money is no issue, obviously, but if you need the fun.
I love Rodgers. But I think Semenyo, their fixtures are great, and Semenyo is the talisman for them. He's pretty much involved in everything they do. And Bournemouth have looked pretty good this year as well. They've surprised me. They beat Arsenal and City in 2 out of 3 weeks. They're a good team, and Semenyo looks like a great player. I'd probably go with Semenyo.
Gotcha. Coupe?
I'd go with Semenyo as well for the same reasons as Charlie's saying. I wish I had the stat on hand, but what percentage of goals has he been involved with for that team this year? It's probably not 50%. That would be a little bit absurd. But it seems like every time Bournemouth have some results that Semenyo's involved, and as a result, he's also on bonus. So it's probably Semenyo for me. He is still, super cheap in my opinion for what he's provided so far this year.
Right. And I will say Semenyo over Smith Rowe. I would say if money's no issue, I agree with you guys. Semenyo, especially for the next 8 weeks, he has great fixtures. He is their talisman. He's their guy. I know Evan Nilsson has come in and he's good and he's scoring goals and all this stuff. I think Semenyo is Bournemouth's guy. The play revolves around him. He's their main attacking focal point. But I will say Rodgers is on a better team. Rodgers has played 90 most of the time. And if you need a little bit of funds, and I also think that there are no forwards as cheap as Rodgers. So like if you go 5 million forward, 5.5 million midfielder, or 5.5 million midfielder, 5 million forward, there's no forward in that 5 million range that plays. And so
Rodgers is 5'4" now. Just
I know, but let's say some people had Rodgers from before or whatever. You know what I mean? Just in general, a lot of people got Rodgers at 5 mil. If you didn't have Rodgers from before, I would just go to Semenyo. Semenyo is only 0.2 million more expensive right now. Semenyo is that guy, but if really money is tight, I would then go Rodgers, just because like 90 basically plays Cam for a top 4 challenging team. So not much else that needs to be said about that. I think Smith Rowe is the one that kind of just takes the back seat to both of those two guys. Agreed?
All right, we're a little pressed for time. Let's wrap this up with a differential of the week. You guys know the rules. Anyone under 5% owned. Coupe won last week with Strand Larson. Hassan chose. Huh?
I was Strand Larson. You had Cunha.
Hassan had Cunha, who got an assist.
I have Cunha on my real team, so.
And I chose Darwin Nunez, who was a flop. So I get to start this week, and I'm actually going to go for another Liverpool guy this week, who's been on fire recently. 2 goals in the Champions League a few weeks ago, scored in the league over the weekend, scored in the Champions League again this week, and I think he's definitely going to start. Schlott loves him. Cody Gakpo. That's, no real...
I don't know if he's going to start, Charlie. I don't know if he's going to start.
He's going to start.
Diaz came on and scored a hat-trick.
Well, I think they're going to play the same front three. I don't think Darwin plays. I think they play Diaz through the middle and Gakpo on the left.
I would actually think it would be Gakpo through the middle, Diaz
on the left. Huh?
Gakpo through the middle, Diaz on the left.
No, they only play Gakpo. They only play Gakpo left wing.
I mean, but Diaz. Did Diaz play strong? I didn't watch the second half.
He
Did
played
Diaz
strong
play strong today? Okay, interesting. Okay, we'll see. I guess we'll see. I like it though. I think Gakpo will probably start as well. It's just, and he's been on fire. He's playing really well. And obviously, Coupe, you won, so I'm going to go second. I am going to go with someone we mentioned earlier in this podcast. I'm going to go with Rasmus Højlund. Leicester at home. That's a great fixture. Man United look a little bit more offensive. I think he'll get a couple chances. I think he can put one away. I think he could get me a second point. Coupe, round us up.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that this guy wasn't taken. They're not a particularly popular team for having offensive having offensive guys up front. But the guy who I'm going with as my differential for the week is Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's currently only sitting.
Yes, Coupe.
You love it.
He's currently only sitting at around 3.1% owned. A lot of that probably has to be because he wasn't playing earlier this year in 90. He started now. Sorry?
And Nketiah dropped him when Nketiah
was. But he was playing alongside Nketiah last weekend. Both of them started that game. But anyway, he's played 90 the last couple match weeks. And just to bring up what he's done in the 23-24 Premier League campaign, in 25 starts, he's had 23 total goal contributions, 16 goals, 7 assists. He's been absolutely unreal, and he's improved since Glasner has taken over for Hodgson. So Jean-Philippe Mateta, in my opinion, is a great differential for this week. I already spoke a little bit earlier as well about how Sellers Park is not necessarily an easy place for any club to come in and play at their best. So it's Mateta for me. I have a good feeling about this one.
I'll counter that and say that they had Elise last year, so the team was just a little bit better when you're pulling those stats. I may not have Eze this week, but I'm not going to. I still it's a solid pick. You can definitely get one. We've all gone strikers this week.
Yeah,
it's good choices.
It's going to be fun.
Anyway, boys, I'm happy we got this done on Tuesday. Still got a lot of football in midweek to go, so hopefully no injuries mess up our predictions or anything like that. But,
let's go.
Hey, it's going to be another great weekend of FPL.
Yes, it is.
Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks for everyone involved. And see you guys next week, all right? Last week before the international break, so let's make it a good one.
Yes, let's go. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.